Alright guys, on today's video, I'm just telling you a little bit about this camera system I've had for almost 2 years. I got it from Falcon Electronics. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about it and some of the things I've learned along the way. Things to do, things to not do. And before I get into the ins and outs of this system, this is one thing right here. This is probably the most important thing you want to do. Do not take this for granted. You need to have these stickers on your truck, at least one on each side. I prefer one on the front and then one on the back of the trailer on each side. The one on the back of your trailer is going to be the most important. And the reason that they're the most important, there's 3 reasons. And the first reason, obviously, is when people see those stickers, when you're going down the highway, they know not to act a fool whenever they're around you, because they know they're being recorded. So it protects you in that sense. So people see that sign right here. Mine needs to be a little bigger, and they'll kind of slow down. They won't act so stupid around you. It definitely protects you. So the second reason is so people don't vandalize your truck. So when your truck's sitting for, a day or two, or even more, maybe a week, and, like mine, where I park at, it's just kind of, it's a risky spot. People see those signs on there, and they'll think twice about messing with it. And then the third reason, which I would consider the most important, because I recently had, or my wife recently had, an encounter with some people after a collision, and if she didn't have her camera, I don't know what would have happened. She rear-ended some people. She's fine. Her car got totaled. The truck she hit, it's fine. They were able to drive it away. It was like a 3/4 ton truck, but she was trapped inside the car, and the car was actually on fire for a little bit, so she was panicking. The people she rear-ended ended up getting out of the car and berating her and sitting there cussing her out, calling her everything and every name in the book, when they should have been trying to help her get out of the damn car. The car's burning up and they're going to sit out there and cuss at her. It's like, don't get no more white trash than that. Yeah, that pissed me off. You can probably tell, but I'm glad she had the cameras, because you know what happened when they were sitting there cussing her out? One of the ladies said, "Oh, she's got a camera." They saw that camera and they shut the hell up after that. So they knew they were being recorded. So I'm glad she had that on there, because I don't know what those people would have done. She didn't even have the sticker. If she would have had the sticker, it would have been even more visible. They just so happened to see the camera, but the sticker just adds another element to it. So don't forget those stickers, guys. Don't miss out on that. It's very important to have those, to let people know you got this system in there. People will be a little more responsible around your property. So just to recap, number 1 is for when you're out in traffic and people want to act crazy around you and tailgate you and try to fight you. That sticker is going to deter them from that. Number 2 is to make sure people don't vandalize your truck, steal from it. Very important. Number 3 is maybe post collision, more so for whenever you're parked, maybe, I don't know, getting gas, parked at a light, things like that. So make sure you get the stickers, guys. Take it from somebody that knows. It helps out a lot. When people know they're being watched, they don't act as stupid, because I've had some pretty sketchy encounters being out here on the road. Get the sticker. This is the black box over here, and this is the screen I got. The first thing I would tell you would be to put the screen somewhere where it's out of your way. And right there, it's pretty much out of my way. I can still get access to this compartment here, but I can also use it whenever I'm backing up the trailer. These cameras over here that face the rear, they really help out. I have some up at the top that I'm working on right now, but they really help out. They face the rear. And then I got one here. I don't have my trailer hooked up right now, but it goes all the way to the back of the trailer. And so these little cameras really help out, at least with a flatbed. With the van, I don't know, it might be a little bit different, but they really help with my visibility, especially at nighttime. As far as the black box goes, just try to mount somewhere where it's not directly in the heat. Don't mount somewhere down here on the dash where it's going to be in the direct sunlight all day. Don't mount it down here where it's going to be where the heater is, where it's going to be getting warm air blown on it. You want it somewhere where it's just in the shade, out of the warm air, and where it's accessible. Don't put it somewhere where you can't access it, because believe me, you gotta come in here every now and then and tighten these up, because they just magically loosen up for some reason. And I definitely wouldn't put Loctite on those, because you have to replace these sometimes depending on where you put the cameras. So definitely, see, that one's loose right there. Definitely put it somewhere that is easily accessible. That is a biggie. that one's loose too. You'll know when they're loose whenever the image on the camera goes away. That's usually what it is. One of these came loose. And this one also has a spot here for a key. So if you're ever in a really bad crash, they'll have access to this black box. It's supposed to be fireproof. That'll be your proof, you know, something really bad happens. I think the whole system was like $1,500, but it was well worth it. And you definitely want to use the inline fuse they gave you. Don't pass that up in case, you know, you get a short. You want the fuse to blow. Put you a switch in there. That's what I did to turn the system off. That's what they recommended. Every time I shut down for the night, I have a switch up there. Get you a switch with a light. That way you know if it's on or off. That really comes in handy. And as far as the ones that I have facing the front, I have one right here. I have one up here, and I have one over there. And these three I've never had any problems with, but that's because they're mounted inside. So the cameras that are mounted inside are going to be your best bet. It's hard to get away with that though with rear facing cameras. But as far as front facing, try to mount them inside. That way you don't get condensation on the cameras, because they say they're waterproof, but over time they will get water in them. I think that happens with almost all cameras, but these I've just had no issues with. They've been great. And then for my rear facing cameras, I got two of them. I got one up here, you know, and then I got one on the other side. You want to make sure you have the cables secured really well. You don't want them flapping around in the wind. And you want to make sure, like if this setup right here, whenever you open the door, that it doesn't pull on the cord. So you got to have a little bit of slack right there. I mean, I know it kind of looks tacky, but it is what it is. That's about the best I could do on that, and get you a good mount. I just custom made mine, but you want something that doesn't flop all around. I haven't really had any issues with these either. Basically, the rule of thumb is if you have them mounted on the outside of the truck, you want as little wire visible on the exposed on the outside of the truck as possible. You want to get it into the truck as quickly as you can. So, you know, I wouldn't recommend running it all the way down the door or something unless you have to. With mine, it doesn't let any water leak through or nothing, but I have it right here. And you want to make sure when you close the door that it's not pinching them real bad. So I know in some trucks, you know, the doors might be pretty tight. You might be pinching them, so you might have to figure out another route. I have seen guys mount them on the front of their trucks, like on the bumper and facing backwards. And that's a good spot for, you're gonna get everything from up here. And basically for these rear facing cameras, you have two types of cameras. You have this type with the shield over it, and then you have this type that I have up here. They're like the aerodynamic ones, and these are made to go like on the side of a truck. So if you didn't want to mount it on your mirror, say if you had real bad crimping, you would use that type of camera, and you'd put it up here somewhere. A lot of guys will put them on their bumper. That way they don't have to drill holes in the body. And then you got to figure out some way to run the wires up into your cab. It can be kind of tricky. Some people I've seen have mounted them even like right here. But once again, you got to drill a hole. I guess you could run the wire up into there. It's kind of tricky. There's a lot of pictures though on the website that show like all the different ways people have mounted them. Now these ones up here I've had the most problems with. I wanted something mounted really high up so I could see my loads when I'm going down the road, because sometimes straps will loosen up. Some of these loads, I just want something to keep an eye on them, and it really gives me a good eye whenever I'm backing up the trailer. It just kind of, it kind of sees everything. I mean, you can see right here, this is like the view from it. So if, just imagine a trailer back there. But the only problem with these is I didn't want to drill a hole in the cab, in the back of the cab. You'd have to drill a hole through the body, and then the hole would run through the upholstery and everything, and it looked bad. So I ran it from here all the way down and underneath the cab, and then up and right around where my seat is. The problem with that is you have a lot of exposed wire, and the more exposed wire you have outside, the more risk you're running of damage, just because of the elements, cold weather, hot weather, shrinking, expanding, stretching. It takes a toll on them. So if you do run them outside, you want to cover up as much of the wire as possible, especially up here in the wind, because originally I had these mounted where it was just on the outside of this and just zip tied to it, and the wind would catch it, and then over time the wires would they'd be messed up. So what I ended up doing was show you up here, and this is all custom. I ended up having to mount them right here and then drill a hole back here and run the wire down in it. And when I'm done with this, it'll be kind of like over there. Over here I have hose that runs down that whole thing. You can see right here. And we're over on the other side, and you can see I have it's just rubber hose, and you can find some at O'Reilly's or AutoZone. Tell them how many feet you want, but that's what I used over here, and ran the wire through the hose up through that pole. That way it protects it. Really should have the wire ran through this the entire length of it, but if you don't, you really want to secure it really well. And another important thing is don't tighten, if you use like zip ties, don't tighten them too tight, because you can crimp the wires and do damage. So just put it on there snug. And another big thing is you don't want it close to your exhaust. See, here's my stacks right here. So I ran it down the back side of my headache rack, and I didn't want to get it too close to that. The closest you want to get to it is maybe 6 inches. I wouldn't get any closer than that. And then I ran it down underneath it, and then attach it to the bottom of the cab and run it all the way up there. And then once you get up here, you can use more rubber hose instead of grommets to run the wire up through the cab. Or you can just use grommets, whatever you want to do. But the rubber hose works really well. But this right here, this is the original camera I had there on the back, and you can see it got moisture inside of it. Yeah, so that just happens when it's up there at a place like that, where it's susceptible to, you know, all kinds of, it's susceptible to all the elements. And the replacement for this thing was, let's see, I think it's like $115. They give you the new camera, and they also give you 30 feet of cord, which 30 feet is going to be good for just about anywhere on a semi. And I'll tell you a way you can figure out if it's the camera or the wire. On mine, I just basically took loose one of the cameras that I knew worked, like on the inside of the truck, plugged it into where this one was at. So if you plug it in and the camera works, that tells you the camera is bad. But if you plug it in and the camera does not work, that tells you most likely the wire is bad. It's not foolproof, because it could be both. But usually it's either one of the two. It's very rare that both of them will be bad at the same time. And this is a hose we're going to use to run the wire through, which is 5/16 a heater hose. We're going to cut it real quick, because you got to cut a slit in it, because you can't slide the wire through it because the ends are too big. You technically could if you got a bigger hose, but I'm just not going to do that. You just got to cut a slit down this whole thing so the wire will go in there, and then you can, you know, you can put a zip tie every so often, or electric tape, something. Well, we got the slit cut down the thing, so now we can slip the wire in it. And before I put the wire inside that hose, you want to make sure you wrap up this connection really good, because like I was saying earlier, they can come loose, and that's fine if you have access to them, but when you don't have access to them and they come loose, it's It's like finding a needle in the haystack as far as where your problem is coming from. So you want to make sure that it doesn't come loose. So now we got the hose over the electric wire. Now we can go ahead and tape it up, make sure it stays on there. Now we can go ahead and slip the wire down in there. Green goes on the bottom, so that little green dot right there where my thumb is, that goes on the bottom. Now we can put the case over it. And this case has a little slit there in the back. That's where the wire goes. That way you don't crimp it whenever you mount it. And that's that. We'll go up to the trailer and adjust it, because I can't really tell where it needs to be until I got the trailer hooked up. And one more thing I might note about this system, especially for the rear facing cameras, you can mirror them and you can reverse them. So you can flip it, but you can also mirror it. So you can make it to where it appears as if you were looking in the mirror. Like this image right here looks almost like if I was looking out the mirror, which that's what I wanted. The original image that it shows kind of throws you off. It makes you think that this camera is over here and this camera is over here. So you can, you can change it up to whatever suits you. And I like to put them all like front facing ones right here, rear facing here. This is the trailer camera. And then the two top ones right here. That way they all kind of fit together really well, and you don't have to look for certain ones. You just know where they are. It all kind of just fits into place, for me at least. Now navigating the screen is complex. There are a lot of features on it, a lot of stuff honestly I haven't explored. And once I got it set up, that was pretty much it. And if you leave this on and you get back to your truck every day, it's okay, I guess. It drains on your battery a little bit, but if you leave, say for a weekend, you come home Friday and then you leave out on Monday, your battery's going to be drained pretty good. Over a 3-day period, it drains quite a bit. Over 4 days, your batteries will almost be dead. Over 5 days, they will definitely be dead. And I have 4 batteries in my truck, so it definitely decreases the life of your batteries. And whenever you purchase this item on their website, there's all kinds of options on there. You can choose how many cameras you want. You can choose what size screen, 7-inch, 10-inch. And then your hard drive, you can choose either a 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, or a 4 terabyte. The 4 terabyte says it has 1,000 hours of memory on there. So I would go with the 4 terabyte. And then also on the memory cards, they have a 256 gigabyte memory card, and they have 512 gigabyte, which is just 2 cards. They have that option. So I would do as much memory as I could put on the thing, because you never know. You might want to look back on something that maybe happened 2 or 3 weeks ago. If you don't have that much memory, you're already going to have written over it. Which, speaking of that, this system does record over itself. It just loops over itself. So once it's used up all its memory, then it will just start recording over itself. That is one nice thing about turning the system off every day. You're not burning up all the memory, but at the same time, there's a disadvantage to it because you don't have surveillance on the truck. And with me, I pretty much leave the system on almost every day, because I'm home every day and then the next day I'm back in the truck. It's not going to drain the battery too much. And even though maybe the life of the battery is a little shorter, I do have that peace of mind from the surveillance system. People aren't up there messing around with my truck.
Even though some people do think that my trailer is a trash can.
If I do park it for a long period of time, say, 4 or 5 days or more, I'm unhooking that truck and parking it at the house, because I'm not gonna have the surveillance on for that long. It's gonna run the battery down. And it's better to be parked at the house where I also have surveillance. Just make sure that you cover yourself no matter what you're doing. And if you can't cover yourself, figure out a way to do it, because that's very important, because people look for those weak spots. So just make sure you're covered from all angles. And don't slack on that stuff, guys. It's very important to protect yourself. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you're sitting there thinking,
man, if I just had a camera.
And the reason I ended up getting mine was I witnessed a truck actually spin out in front of me. I think it was a flatbed. He blew a tire on his, I think it was his truck, and it made like the trailer spin around because he tried to hit his brakes. And I watched the whole thing happen right in front of me. It was like something out of like an action movie. It was crazy looking. And he spun around and like the truck was facing me for a second. And I mean, it almost hit me. I mean, we're talking, I was going 70 mile an hour down I-20. And he ended up kind of sliding off the road and hitting the guardrail. I was like, man, should I pull over, make sure this guy's fine? I looked in my mirror and he got out of the truck after that. That was what made me get the camera system. But if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would have had it. So I'm just telling you, it shouldn't take something really bad to happen for you to get a surveillance system like this. Just go ahead and do it, spend the money, and you'll have that peace of mind. That being said, Falcon Electronics is not the end all. If you can find a better system on another website,
awesome.
That's just the website that I so happen to use. They're based out of Austin, Texas, so I did like that. But I'm sure there's other companies that will have systems, hopefully that are centered towards semi-trucks. Most of the ones that I find online are more for cars. Really simple systems that might have one camera, maybe two, that kind of mount where your rear view mirror is. We don't have rear view mirrors. If you can find a better one out there, that's awesome. But this is the system I use, and so far it's been pretty good. And this is why it's important to watch these videos all the way through, because I give important information all the way through the whole video. If I had to rank this system, I would probably give it a 4 out of 5 stars. And the reasons for that, there's a few reasons. Number one being this rear camera. It's hard to tell from this phone, but the resolution on that rear camera just is not as good as the other cameras. It's very blurry, and I actually addressed that to their customer service, talked with their tech guy, and they sent me a new pigtail connection, which is this right here. Goes from here to your truck, and it literally did nothing. And this is the camera that's actually made for the rear of your trailer, specifically for that. I definitely should note, they did not send me the new pigtail connection for free. I had to pay for that out of pocket. So I wasn't too happy with that. And then I got back with them again that the connection looked like crap still, and they just never responded. I didn't like that too much. I think that's as good as it gets though, to be honest. The second reason would be these connections. These connections here on the back side of the black box, especially for your power and for your monitor, they don't make very good connection. What I ended up having to do for the power, because I'd be driving down the road and the thing would just turn off. So I had to take loose the power connection, which is this one right here with the red, yellow, and black wire, and actually spread out the prongs on the connection so it made a good connection. And then the one for the monitor, there's just nothing I can do about that. I have to jiggle it around, and you can see right here what happens. I'll jiggle it around for you and show you. Just look at the screen. It's really sensitive. And see, it goes to yellow. There's just nothing I can do about that. Sometimes the screen just doesn't work at all. And then the third one obviously being that one of the cameras got moisture inside of it and ended up going out because of that. The fourth reason would be this remote. It just doesn't work very good when you're trying to navigate this screen. Sometimes it just, I don't know, for some reason it doesn't work at all. Here is the menu. See, there it goes. I don't know why, it's hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's tiny and it's kind of cheap. The piece on the back that's supposed to hold the battery in, it just fell apart and I lost it. It just fell on the floor somewhere, so I have to make sure I mount this upside down so the battery doesn't fall out. And this is the one for the screen. It's cheap too. And then the last reason that I would give it a 4 out of 5, which I think is being pretty generous honestly, is these wires. They don't provide very good protection for the wires. Just any little nick on it and it's done for. and they're kind of brittle too. So the wires could definitely be better. It's just kind of cheap. And these connections, this one right here, you can see they come loose all the time. And I tighten them as tight as I can get with my fingers, and I don't know why, they just keep coming loose. So that could be improved as well. So all that being said, since I'm stuck with the system, you just got to make do. But if I could go back in time and I could find a better system, I would probably have bought it rather than having this one. But now that I've worked out all the kinks, it seems to be doing all right. It is what it is, guys. It's not perfect, but it's just one of those things that you got to work out all the bugs on. I feel like I've done that over time.
It took a minute.
Maybe if you watch this video, you can not have to deal with the stuff that I had to deal with. And if you're curious how everything looks at nighttime, here is how it all looks. Keep in mind, this camera's bad. I gotta replace it. It's one of them that's up high. But there's how they all look. You do have to clean them every now and then. But like, see these three right here, that's not the camera, that's the windshield. So that's one of the disadvantages of having it mounted behind the windshield, is all the bugs. Pretty good picture at nighttime. Nighttime in the rain. And here's how it looks. Not bad. And here's what I love most about this system. See how it's kind of hard to see where I'm going? It's really hard at where I park my truck because it's just so dark back there. Even with my windows down, you can see over there. It's really hard to see anything. So now I got my rear view camera moved over to full screen, and I can just back her right in. It gives a pretty good nighttime picture because it's dark back there. Make sure I don't hit the maze runner. And just nudge it right on up to those trees, or that tree right there. Right there. Well, we have finally made it to the end of the video. Thank you for watching the video if you have made it this far, and congratulations. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things. I appreciate it if you do. Even if you don't, I appreciate you just watching the video and taking the time to make it to the end. If you have any questions as far as this system goes, just ask me, and I'll do my best to get back with you. I'm not
Extremely tech savvy.
obviously. I've had this for 2 years, so figured I would give a little bit of a review on it, seeing as how I've had it that long, rather than a review for whenever I first purchased it. That's it, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. What will I promise you? I'll promise you you won't be waiting around all day on a loaded pipe like me right now. That's it.